This is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we journey around the world, talking with fellow human design reflectors as they experience and navigate their unique design. Today's conversation is a little different. It's a little bit of my process. I feel it's important just to sometimes put myself out there as well and honour a lot of the vulnerability that is shared in this community, and even just the vulnerability from myself to share with you a small snippet of my process. So I wanted to dedicate some time to soundboard for myself and really kind of feel into this process of me. Now, for those watching, should I share this video, you'll see a lot of my eyes closed, and that is because I have inner vision. Indirect light, inner vision. And I've never really, until I found like human design, I never really understood why I needed to just not look at people or when I'm really processing. So you're going to get a little bit of that. And this is going to be very disjointed because I really don't know. I just thought I found myself talking to myself. And I do this a lot. I actually encourage people to do it as well, because it's a really beautiful way to hear your voice back through your ear canal, and it really lands well. Also, sometimes it really feels good to kind of touch your body in places as you're speaking to kind of like get a vibe of what energy is processing through. Anyway, I know I have a lot of, I've always had that ever since I was a child, like the prickly sensations where I feel like people are touching my head or touching my throat or touching, a certain part of my body, arm, hand. I'm a little bit older now and I kind of believe that that's just energy, frequency meeting me. Some people, I like to believe that that's their guides, their angels. That's beautiful. Kind of believe that too, but each to their own. I think in this, whatever I need to talk about right now is really around my journey and what I'm about to launch, and this feeling that I have of, it's not incompleteness, but it's just maybe it's imposter syndrome. This feeling I have of a little bit of an imposter syndrome and processing that and feeling that. So a little bit of background. For those that don't know, a lot of what I do, I'm in this day and age. I mean, I've been many things, and I'm sure so have you. But in this day and age, I really focus on pregnancy and postpartum, women's journeys through themselves. I have navigated parenthood through pretty much the full cycle, back in the throes of it with my young little beings. I am now a grandmother. And working with women in the pregnancy and postpartum space as a birth doula and postpartum doula has been some of the most amazing times of my life. It has thrown me to the highest highs and to the lowest lows, just in the feeling sense, the emotional sense, me wanting to help more, me wanting to do more, and learning who I am through that process, and kind of like also healing my journey. So it's been very powerful. My children, people say this, it's a big quote, isn't it? People, your children are your greatest teachers. And it is true. But that's not their job to teach us as well. It's just their frequency comes in. That's another chat for another day. But getting back to this as a part of my role and a part of the work that I do, and because I've had to take at the beginning of the year quite a few months off due to an injury and an accident that I had, I've kind of over the last little while started to find my feet again and really question, Annie, what do you want to do? You've had this space, you've been granted this space to explore who you are, but what do you want to do? And I know not everybody's lucky to have that space that I had, because they would have been pressured to go back, or they had to work, like they have to work through their trauma, like, not work as in work on their trauma, but work through it. And that, anyway, again, that's going on. I just want to pay respects to people who don't have the freedom that I had and a supportive family environment and partner to say, hey, you heal. We're good here. It was all me. The months of me not working, it was just all me and just feeling really like, well, where am I contributing to life? What am I doing? Where's my business? Where's my identity? And I realized in that space that I really had, associated a lot of the external work that I do as my identity. But getting back to it, so I want to talk about breath work in this. This is the main purpose of me coming on and talking to myself and maybe talking to you if I ever air these. I do these a lot, by the way. I record things and then I just, it doesn't feel great in my body to talk to myself. It's just, I find that the back and forth feels a lot more comfortable for me. But I like to do these as well, just to get my own answers, hear my own voice, be in this moment. So I have, over the last X amount of years, been doing a lot of breath work. And the breath work that I've been doing is a conscious connected breath work, and it's around rebirthing. My birth, I think if you've ever listened to my podcast, I'm adopted. And so I've kind of traversed over nearly 5 decades now of just this kind of living in this space of trying to unravel the patterning from how this adoption and how this sense of just being birthed and then handed over has affected me, because it has deeply affected me. Reflectorism aside, and human design reflectorism aside, that has been a very challenging thing for me to deal with. Self-worth, feelings of abandonment, rejection, the way I show up, the way I pull back. So when I stumbled across rebirthing breathwork, which is really tapping into our first breath, it really taps into the journey of how we actually showed up, that first breath of ours in the world. I grabbed it. And it's something that I speak a lot about as well, in the human design space of just like what actually is, and even in the birth doula space, what actually is the time of birth? Is it the first breath? And so all these things have just married up beautifully. So anyway, digressing, I've spent 2 years kind of like processing this and having a way to really dive into my birth, going through forgiveness, going through these personal lies that I have, like journeying, not just by breathing. Well, yes, absolutely by breathing, because it's right under our noses, isn't it? The best healing tool in the world. But being guided into discovering how my birth entrained me or set up patterns that I have experienced throughout my life. So powerful shit. Can I just say powerful fucking shit that I've just gone woof to the point I have forgiven my birth mother. I have a decent relationship with her now. I'm being able to be a lot more free, a lot more loving. I feel like my heart, it literally like just uncaged. And I've been doing a lot of work for a lot of years. So anyway, I was invited this year to train further in this modality of rebirthing. And because I've been really honoring my process, I'm like, I'm not doing any more training. I am so skilled. I have a first line. I'm a really, really skilled person, but the problem is I keep training and I don't take time always to really, truly embody a lot of some of the stuff. I do now, but I haven't in the past. And so I was very much like, no, I don't think I ever want to do be a breath worker, because I see everybody, and I don't know what it's like for your community, but here it's just like everybody's doing breath work. It's trendy, right? And I thought, I don't want to do that, like, because the work that I've been doing is very deep and it's very personal. And it's not just like a 30 minutes or an hour thing. It's just, it's a deep, deep process. And I didn't want to be that kind of breath worker who just someone comes in. Speaking to my depth of being, a reflector and in human design, I'm deep, man. Like I can't, I want to sit there and in this space and really explore it and allow the unraveling to happen when it needs to happen without force. So I was just like, no, I'm not going to do it. No, if it's supposed to be for me, if it's supposed to be for me, then it'll come back round. And sure enough, I got a phone call from my rebirther, which her name's Briellen, Angel Briellen. And she was like, you need to do this. And I found myself just going, do I really? Am I just being pulled around? Again, is this one of those FOMO things, when we make a decision on the spur of the moment and we're just like, yeah, yep, absolutely, this is what I need to do. And then, that month later after we've transited, we're just like, yeah, no, this is not really for me after all. So I was really wary of it. But I decided that at the worst scenario, like, this is how my brain works. I always just go, what's the best? What's the worst? And it's just like, that's me going in. It's also a control thing, by the way. Anyway, I'm onto me. It's okay. You don't need to tell me. I'm onto me. And so my worst case scenario was, well, what's the worst that can happen? You do 10 full day immersions. You go through this whole process and you deepen your dive into yourself. I'm like, okay, that sounds good, because fuck knows I needed it after this year, at the beginning of the year, with all this accident and this, change of pace in life. And so I did. And I found myself in this moment of just inner depth, inner deep, deep diving. It never stops, by the way. I don't think you ever get healed, air quoting, but you never get totally healed. It just pulls away more layers and more layers. And it's a beautiful thing. It's always beautiful when you're on the outside of it, but when you're in the middle of it, you're like, wow. But so I did this, and it was probably and I say this a lot in life, there's massive experiences that happen where you will never forget it for the rest of your life. And this is one of those. That process of being in space with people, rebirthing every day, multiple times, doing the whole journey, sharing stories, sitting in space with 14 other people, I think there were. And for me, groups are a struggle. But in this group, I was okay because it was so raw and vulnerable. There was so many tears, like even beautiful, beautiful healings, tears, releases, that myself included. Yeah. Breath. I was just really grateful for that experience. So at the end of that, we pretty much had the let's do this. Let's bring this into your practice. But I really honored my integration phase. And I knew, and this is the beauty of this self-awareness, that I would get caught in the hype of it and I would rush out the door and I would be like, everybody needs to know this, because I do. But I realized that it needed to be a private thing as well. It needed to be an internal Annie, processing. And I found then when I was kind of ready to step into it, I didn't want to advertise. I didn't want to go out there and just be like, hi, I need certain amount of people to do this training with me so I can tick all the boxes and get all the accreditation. And it's very serious stuff, by the way. It's just they take it very seriously. I take it very seriously. I'm not just going to rock up to a weekend course and just go, I've got a certificate now, I can do this. This is stuff that's very important in people's lives. The trauma involved in a lot of this work. Like I know some people are very trauma, like they say, air quoting here again, trauma informed. Are you really? This has always been a thing that scares the shit out of me. It's just that people can go and do a course and then call themselves trauma informed. But when shit goes down, are they actually able to deal with it? That's where this coming in is my imposter syndrome or my fears of just going, I know to the depths. I've done this for years. I know where it goes. And it is beautiful, beautiful. Let's label it shadow work. It is shadow work. And you can't just force somebody to do it just because it's trendy at the time, because some stuff's going to come up. And is that facilitator going to be able to handle that situation appropriately without pushing their agenda or objectives onto that person? So that has been very much in the back of my mind. But then I sat and I asked myself, Annie, you have been in this space holding people for years. There's a certain, niche that I have in the space of I do with women, with birth, with pregnancy, going through their own journey to become a mother. Navigating menopause is a huge thing for me right now in the work that I do. Navigating these changes in life and taking us back to how we were. So suddenly this enveloped me of saying, you are so capable. You have so much under your belt. I have counseling. I have all of this. I've been doing it for years. And so the fear just kind of dissipated. And I decided to just go, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring this into my practice because it is so powerful, unraveling the patterns of you. And today, a person that I know who I get massages from, she reached out the other day and sort of suggested, hey, do you think that you're due? And because I had been trying to get in with her for the last couple of months, I suppose I say that, but everything has happened and I've had to kind of keep switching gears. And anyway, I'm booked in, but I just sort of had to let her know. I felt like I needed to let her know because I had shared with her that there might be a situation where I have to go, doula work, my own granddaughter doula work. And I wanted to let her know because I valued her. And then she responded through one of those after I'd sort of confirmed to her and said, yes, I will be there. Just letting you know so your nervous system can settle and know that I'm not going to cancel. And she said, okay, if I'm not there, if you arrive early and I'm not there, I won't be too far away. Now, I was induced. So I'm always early. Part of my process. And I laughed when I read that message from her, and I was actually going to respond to her and say, thank you. I was induced and I'm always early. And now I can feel a little bit less anxious in my nervous system to just take my time because it's going to be okay because you may be a little late too. Things like that, this work has helped me go through. So that is that is where I'm going a little bit in this of just stepping into this journey, stepping into this process of me and how it is okay for me to unravel these things about myself and navigate this rebreathing, this rebirthing, and honoring that process of me going, it is okay to be messy here. I'm a fifth line, but I got a lot of third lines. I got a lot of third lines in my chart. I tell you now, the messiness. It's just like, I sometimes feel that the fifth line needs to be all sorted. The third line needs to be really messy, and they just all the time. So what happens is you go into a paralysis of just going, well, I can't because it needs to be perfect. It needs to be, oh my God, nope, I can't. Nope, I can't do that. What if I do that and that happens? The third line's like, who gives a fucking shit? Let's go. The fifth line, because it's obviously my personality, it reins it in. But the third line is underneath a lot of my planets, and it is just going, you know what? Fuck everyone else. Get out there, have a go, be messy, make mistakes, learn from them, move on. And I think that's why here I sit in this process of just going, it takes me time because of that fifth line wariness. But I'm learning to let it go, journey through the process of life. I don't know where you are in your life, and this was a really big share for me, just saying. But I feel that this is the way that we really should be approaching human design. You can learn everything, you can understand it, which is very, very valuable. Do not get me wrong. But until you actually pull back and start to question why you do the things you are, why you feel the things you are, and whatever modality you need in that space to do that, for me, the most healing stuff that I've ever encountered through most of my trauma has been, I spent 2 years getting a healed energy healing with quantum healing. I did life between lives, which is a hypnosis thing, and breath work. They are the big things for me. Learning to use my voice in sound, exploring that, being told most of my life, you can't sing, you don't have a singing voice, or, you can't play music, to probably realizing that I have a very, very powerful and beautiful voice, and I can pick up most instruments now and play them intuitively, not by the book. But that's a beautiful feeling to have, to just go, this is who I am. This is this openness and this wonderful feeling of just embracing the unknown, embracing us, embracing this feeling of just, it's okay. It's okay to be you just as you are now. It's okay to be us just as we are now, even humanity, just as it is now, because everybody's going through something. Everybody's processing differently. And I just dislike to get into that space. But again, I just wanted to be open and honest about the process that I had with this training. And yeah, don't know where I go with that any longer, but I think I've run my course. Here's my voice. It's done. Nora, my beautiful friend, she always says to me, are you complete? And because she's European, sometimes the translation gets a little bit lost. And I understand that so much more now over this past year. I'm complete in the sense of going, I've said enough. I'm good. I feel good, thanks. Got it out of my system. Blah. So yeah, are you complete today?